Freedom? To me, freedom is to be able to speak what I want, do what I want, have my religion, go to the store, buy what I want, take a vacation and drive down to Arizona without having to show a card, to travel, to do just what you want to do without somebody telling you can't do it, being controlled by the government, that you have to have a card and they check you every time you want to leave the border. I can go to you, like if I want to leave here and go up to Wyoming, I'd have to show a card to get into that state. I mean, there's foreign countries over there, they control your life. Freedom is being able to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and not to have somebody tell you you can't do it. Freedom is not being watched every move you make.
That's a wonderful word, freedom. It means you have the right to do what you want in this life, to join what you want to join. Nobody tells you what to do. You have to make up your own mind. That's freedom.
The right to choose, the right to do your things, the right to... I spent 30, 40 years in business, and I built the business, and compared to other parts of the world, that you can't do that kind of thing.
I think it means that we have an opportunity to form our own laws and rule ourselves, and that each person has a responsibility to be respectful of people around them. We aren't coerced into doing anything. In places where somebody is dictating every move, the opportunities are not there to the same degree as they are in our society. One of the regrets I have is that we're so free with our inventions. We have people from everywhere come and go to our schools and learn everything we know, and then go back and become competitive to us. It's a difficult thing, but because we are an open society, they are able to come here and do that. And it's up to us to keep ourselves a little ahead of everybody else in what we do.
It means that I can go and do the job that I desire to do if I get trained for it. It means I get to marry the person, and the person gets to marry me if she thinks it's the proper thing to do, and the freedom to try to raise kids and be a family. It's the freedom to go to your work, and if you foul up, well, it has to be for something really serious, and you can always, in the area that I was in education, if you had a little problem, you could always clear it up with those who were over you in administration.
Our time back in there, that we were more patriotic. I mean, we loved our country, we loved our flag. We'd do anything, but now they do anything to stay out of the service if they can. They run our country down. They have lost all respect for what we are and what we stand for.
I think we're more patriotic back then. All my friends were in the armed forces, and I think that was important. Everybody needed to serve, you know.
Well, I think it's a different kind of patriotism now. It's compared to then, it was we went in because we were being infringed on, you know, and we decided that we had to get it done, you know, we had to go do it. And here now, it's so many politics involved in the thing, it's a lot different. Oh, the desire is, it hasn't been entrenched in the generations.
Well, war itself is a terrible thing. But if it is fighting for the freedoms that we have here, they don't realize what it's cost. I mean, this is from day one, the time of the ancestors came here to fight. It cost lives to get the freedoms that we have here. And it's going to take lives to keep what we got. And I would just hope and pray that the youth today will be patronized enough to know that this country means a lot. If they had traveled to other countries and live in the other countries and see how they live and what their freedoms are, they would not doubt what we have here.
Well, we joined the 5th Fleet in the Atlantic, 3rd Fleet in the Pacific. At that time, the 3rd Fleet was the most powerful bunch of ships you could find anywhere. Nobody dared tackle the 3rd Fleet. You name it, I was there. North Atlantic, South Pacific, everywhere. But I was on a destroyer in the South Pacific, and we first went across the North Atlantic about 4 times, and then back to the South Pacific and all around the southern area there. Not Australia, I was in Australia, New Zealand, I was there too. We were attacked by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor. They soon learned, to fool around with Uncle Sam. And I was already in the Navy, and I was on the good ship Kalk, K-A-L-K. I was a radio technician, responsible to make sure that the radar, the sonar, and all the electrical equipment was functioning. Our commander was Singleton, his assistant was Fuller, and when they'd have any problems with, if everything wasn't coming across clear, go get Sabin. And I was familiar enough with the equipment, I could usually fix it right away. When you get people shooting at you, why, you do a lot of praying. Well, we had 5-inch guns. We had 2 forward and 2 aft. Then we had the 50 millimeter in the center somewhere there. We could put out a lot of shells in a hurry, And this ship was designed as a fighting ship. That's what destroyers do, they fight. And I can remember that hammock story was where I was definitely given information that saved my life. I could see what was coming. You get out of that hammock, I only took about 5 steps when the bomb hit. My hammock was destroyed, shrapnel from the bomb. But I was far enough to center of the ship that the big stack, and they were about this big around, in the center of the ship to hold the mast up. I was behind that. The bomb hit right in front. It destroyed some of the stuff there in front of the ship. It didn't sink us. It didn't break the hull. But it sure cleaned out a lot of other stuff. Killed quite a few of about 35 of my shipmates got killed when that bomb hit. It was a sad situation. But I thank the Lord many times for giving me the warning. You get out of that hammock. If I hadn't have done it, I'd been killed. No question about it. Against an enemy that was well prepared. Both the Japanese and the Germans. They had well prepared they thought they could easily take over the United States. They didn't know anything about America or the United States.
I became a supernumerary, which meant that somebody in another shipment maybe went to the hospital, and I was called in to fill his spot. And so I left all the other guys that I had been drafted with. They went to Europe, I went to the Pacific. Now previously I'd been seeing these returned prisoners of war that the Army had been finding from the Japanese. And the men coming through were just skin and bones. They were just emaciated. And we spent 2 nights reminiscing about his experience in the prisoner of war camp. One I remember particularly, he told about the army camp that he was in. And as usual, they had sentries planted around, and one of them was at the gate. And he went to sleep. And the Japanese officer came around, the officer of the day, and found him asleep. He didn't try to wake him, he just put a gun to his head and shot him. And that was just an illustration of the brutality of and the lack of respect that the Japanese soldiers had, because of the conviction they had that their greatest reward from this earth would be defending their emperor. I was assigned to the 1st Cavalry Division, and the Cavalry Division was sent on patrol down through southern Luzon to take care of some scattered Japanese groups. And we were bivouacked on top of a knoll, and we could hear Japanese soldiers in the ravines around us. And one day when the group was gathered on this knoll, our 1st sergeant was shot in the head by a sniper. And we all liked and admired the man. And I was dispatched to help carry him off the hill down to the quartermaster corps, who then put him in a box and sent him home. But almost immediately I was transferred to regimental headquarters because I could type a little bit. And over my desk had the responsibility of sending notice to people that was in hospitals or shot dead or whatever, to mail that was sent to them. This sergeant received daily mail from his girlfriend every day. And I had to stamp that mail and send it back. And that was a difficult job because I knew the man. I finally came home in 1946, and when we got off the ship, the thing that impressed me most was the guys that knelt down on the ground and kissed the ground. They had seen the Orient, and they were just delighted to get home. It's an experience that I wouldn't take $1 million for, but I don't want it again. No more.
Oh, I was, I guess, a little apprehensive. Yeah, I didn't know what it was all about, but a week into it, you knew what it was all about, so it was okay. Well, I didn't go in until 44, and being in high school, I thought it was bad, but I didn't think much about it, I guess, until I decided. I think where I got it, probably movies. Saw movies, and it gave me the not inspiration, but the desire to enlist and go do it. Well, it's a terrible thing, but we've been through a lot of them, and I guess we've been through a lot of them because of our desire to be free. The battleship Arkansas was the one I was on. We were at the Battle of Iwo Jima. We spent something like 3 weeks going around the island, shelling it, I guess softening it up so that the troops could get in there. My station was a 5-inch ammunition, And that's where you'd get the ammunition up the deck and they'd put it in the guns. And I had a friend that would run one of the 5-inch guns, and he was this Mount Suribachi. He was zeroed in on that mountain, and then that's where when they raised the flag. Well, you got statues of it back in Washington, but I got to see them raise the flag on Mount Suribachi through a 5-inch rangefinder. So the next stop we had was Okinawa, the Battle of Okinawa. We was there for 2 or 3 months, I guess, and it was the same thing, just going around back and forth, shelling, trying to get the Japanese out of their holes. And this one night we were on the deck of the ship. They had a little movie going for us, and we were sitting there watching the movie, and this carrier was about 1,000 yards up away from us, and a kamikaze plane went down into the deck of the carrier, and a big explosion, and we immediately went to general quarters, which means everybody goes to their designated spot in the ship. So that ship had, the battleship had, I want to say 3,500, 4,000 people on it. We call them suicide now, suicide bombers. Well, that's what they were then, but one of them were headed for the New York, and we shot that one down. And another one, I forget where, it was just someplace long. But we had the third one that came after us, and they fired their 40-millimeter guns from the airplane and sprayed the bridge of the ship and everything and killed 3 guys. But they managed to get him before he got us. I mean, every day was, I guess, a dangerous day, but just being a young kid, danger wasn't that big a deal at that time. So
it was just, you didn't know from day to day what was going to happen. It was just something that you don't have any say over or any control over. You just go and do, and you never know when you're going to be under attack. You never know when you're going to sleep all night. Mendenhall boy and Pace and his younger brother and I were really close all the way through high school. His name was Gordon Mendenhall, and he was killed in one of the early sea battles. We were still in high school when he was killed. Anyway, I was invited to go to his home for dinner, and Lynn said to me, "Don't you wear that Navy uniform. My folks can't take it." It wasn't too long before that he'd been killed. And so it really brought it home to me anyway. I really wasn't. That was probably foolish of me, because it didn't take long after we got overseas that we were right in action, and then I said, did I want to do this? And then after that first attack was over with, it was pretty exciting. And I don't know, I just never got really scared anymore. And so one morning, beautiful morning, while the captain or the second officer of the day came on the loudspeaker, and he said, "Everybody listen up." Because I guess sometimes we didn't listen when they had that speaker on, but he said, we're going to invade Japan. We're in the first wave. The ships that we've been training with are in the first wave that's going to go in there. And we expect that there'll only be 5% of you who will survive it. Boy, bang, bang. The first action that I saw was a submarine at the island of Inuitok, That's no longer there. It's been blown up. And the action was that we were there getting supplies on board, and all of a sudden over the loudspeaker said, well, submarine in the area, general quarters. That means everybody go to your stations. And that didn't last very long, maybe 10, 15 minutes, but the a destroyer, it was a middle-sized ship, come right by us and made a big circle out there. And he was dropping depth charges over his side just as fast as he could. And then over the loudspeaker came that carry on. The submarine was sank. And we looked over there at the area, and all we could see was oil coming up. At Okinawa, it was just constant. There was no let up. That was the last big battle that they were in, and the last big one that we entered. And we left the Philippines not too long after Iwo Jima had been conquered, and so they had that as a base. Our country had that as a base now to fly, and so there were always flights between our pilots and their pilots, one-on-one, and it was something we didn't bet on, but we just kind of thought in our mind, well, the Japanese is going to go down. And most of the time, it was the Japanese that lost the battle. And then, when they decided they were really going to push us out, in Okinawa, they already had guns and things set up, tunnels full of food, everything that they would need in an invasion. And they were prepared, really prepared for the GIs to come ashore and drive them out of there. And when they decided to use those not zeros, but the suicide planes, where they just come at us night and day, we would get the call to come up on your battle station. We'd be there, and the attack would come. We'd shoot like wildfire at whatever planes are up there. And then we go back, and we just get back, and then here'd come another wave of suicide planes, Japanese just as smart as they could be. And we would go and stay on our guns as much as 72 hours. We'd sleep there, eat there when we could. We always had what they call sea biscuits that we survived on because we couldn't take time out for the cooks to cook. And then finally, after 2 or 3 months of all the time being harassed, well, we were harassing them, but anyway, them coming at us with their zeros. Why, they dropped the atomic bomb. And that, if you remember history, why that was at the end of the Japanese opposition to us being there. But some of the things that happened there was, and we got to, or had to see it, was they had propagandized the citizens there, Japan, that they were going to be raped and killed and all those things till they would take their own life. And a lot of them got up on the cliffs there at Okinawa and jumped off to their death. Committed suicide rather than be captured. That was just stuck in my throat for a long time. Well, it was really powerful in the age group I was in because we didn't get there for the start, but we got there for all of the winding up battles. And I just think it was, we all felt like, we're really doing something. We're saving the country. Whether we did or not, I don't know.
I was drafted. I passed my physical. The Navy wanted me. The Army wanted me. I couldn't make up my mind where I wanted to go because my parents told me not to join the Marine Corps because I had a brother in the Army, one in the Navy. And when I knew I wanted to be a Marine, they always told them to not let me join the Marine Corps. But while I was trying to make up my mind, well, a Marine recruiting officer, actually a sergeant, stepped in the room and he said, I need 6 volunteers for the Marine Corps. So I raised my hand. Not knowing that when I volunteered for that, I was volunteering for 4 years. My job or position, I was a machine gunner. And the machine gunner, he gives support to the platoons, where I got put in the 26th Marine Regiment, 2nd Battalion, Fox Company, where I had my choice of either being a rifleman or a machine gunner. So I chose a machine gun platoon. The average life of a machine gunner in combat is 3 minutes. And I was very fortunate. I think the Lord above was looking out after me. I got into, for the operation of Iwo Jima. We had to have the island because they were getting ready to assault Japan proper itself, and our bombers didn't have enough fuel to go to Japan and make a return trip. And Iwo Jima had two completed airfields, and the third one started. And we needed those so that our planes could stop there so they could refuel and make a round trip. But I had a number of times when I could have been gone. I was pinned down one day, and I had my machine gun cradled in my arm, and they were shooting machine guns and had me pinned down to where I couldn't move. And all of us pinned down, and they threw a mortar in. Those mortars were coming in, and I had one hit just 30 inches from my head and slide down to my waist, and it was a dud. And another day I was picking up some stones to put up to make a barrier in front of my machine gun. I picked up one and I sat it down and turned to go find some more, and no more, and got my hand off and turned and around hit the rock that I had just sat down. And but I usually, when I'd use up my ammo, I'd fill the boxes with volcanic ash, and I'd set my ammo boxes in front of my machine gun for a barrier to help protect me. We had 246 men, officers and men, in our company, and we had many casualties. One day we had 57 men killed, and killed or wounded, casualties, let me put it that way. One day, and then another day we had another 57 casualties. That's almost half of our company in 2 days that we were there. We had 90 replacements to our company from a replacement battalion that came in. And when we left the island, we left with 41 men. Some of those were replacements. We had a few that had been wounded, but it wasn't severe enough to leave the island, that they came back up on the front lines. But there's 11 out of those 41 men that hadn't been wounded or killed, and I was one of those 11. Being a machine gunner, I had my machine gun shot shot up. I had to replace the machine gun, and I had the rounds from that exploded after hitting the machine gun hit me in the face. I had one of my ammo carriers take his K-bar, that's our issued knife, to pick the flakes of shrapnel out of my cheeks, so I wouldn't have to leave my machine gun. And I went start to finish. Some say 36 days and some say 39 days to secure the island. Another occasion, we were moving up to get over and get a position to start giving support, and the Japanese started throwing some hand grenades on us. We, where we could, the ones we'd pick up and throw out, but throw back. But the one come and hit the fellow right in front of me, and instead of him trying to get rid of everything, he fell on it, took the blunt of the explosion in his stomach, and it killed him. But it saved myself and a bunch that was in front of him. And just a lot of things like that. Then actually the first day I had got onto the island, I'd got dug in. We just got on, and then we had to get regrouped the next morning to start our advancements. We dug in for the night, and they was throwing airbursts on us. That's when they shoot the mortars, and then they go off up in the air, and then they shrapnel sprays down on the ground and gets whoever's down there. And I was sitting in my foxhole, and I had a shrapnel was about 10 inches long and needle point on the end. Widest point was probably 3/4 of an inch, and it lit just between my legs, just 2 inches in from my body. And I was real fortunate there, because I mean, if it had been this way a little bit, then it'd gone right down through me. But my foxhole partner, he says, Sid, he says, are you scared? I said, yes, I am. He said, I am too. He said, this is my third operation. He said, I'm scared also, but he said, don't let it get the best of you. And 3 days later, he got killed while we were laying side by side. I mean, it missed me, the round missed me, and just hit him on the forehead and came out the back of his head. And that could have been me. I mean, if it had been just 4 inches the other direction, it would have been me instead of him. And we'd set up, we'd make our foxholes for the night, and the Japanese, they knew our distance, and they'd start throwing mortars in on us. They'd be picking up foxholes, and they'd just go boom, 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 boom. Then there'd be a pause. Then it'd go boom, boom, boom. And that pause was always where my foxhole was. They skipped me, and I could never figure out why my machine gun, because they knew it was there, but for some reason they boom, 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 and they'd skip me and go on by. And then next morning I'd see Marines all laying out of their foxholes, killed, blown out, and you'd see them during the day. Most of that was night operations, and but during the day they had you could see the boys being blown up and their limbs gone, legs and arms, just their body, and it just was a great sacrifice for a little piece of volcanic ash that we needed for for our own need for our assaults in Japan proper. I was just 19 years old. I was proud to serve my country, and I was glad that I was able to go there, but I could never understand why all my good buddies were being killed or wounded, and I wasn't. I could have had many chances that I could have been gone on that island. It was on the 3rd Airfield, while we were sitting there for 3 days, that they finally got my range. And I was shooting across the airfield at the enemy on the other side. I could see them moving on the other side. And they finally got my range and shot my machine gun up, shot up my breech, and everything, so I couldn't load it. And so I had to go back and get me another machine gun. But I just felt great in doing what I did. It was a great sacrifice, but it was good. It took 22 ships to take 3 Marine divisions to the island. When we had the island secured and they picked us up to leave, they used 8 ships. We left near 7,000 men on the island. It was costly for a little piece of volcanic ash that sat out in the ocean. But it was great. It was great to see the first B-24 come in and land while we were still there fighting for the island. To see a big plane come in and land, it just gave us a great feeling. And to make us feel like we'd accomplished something. Had it secured enough to where that plane could come in and land. And it was great when we secured Mount Suribachi and they raised the flag. It was good to see that flag flying up on top. But we still had a long way to go. But I was really, really fortunate, and I thank my Father in heaven for letting me survive. In fact, I prayed to him. I had never prayed before in my life. I wouldn't even remember the church, any church. I prayed that if he got me come off the island in one piece, I'd join his church. I didn't know which was his church, but I found out. And here I am. I joined the church, and I've been happy ever since.